inches, but claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing.
Hell, you could say that 10,000 times and it still wouldn't be enough.
It fires me up, man.
I love it. Say it one more time.
Shake and bake!
Does that feel good?
Yeah, it rhymes. They're both verbs. It's awesome.
And welcome back, sports fans, to the Shaving Points podcast, where we are always on time, regardless of technical difficulties.
Always.
Quentin Crisco. You can find me on Twitter at BucketStats. You can find the podcast on Twitter at shaving_points. That's PTS_pod. And I'm joined here, as always, by my co-host, Jaden May. How you doing today, Jay?
Doing fantastic. Been playing a lot of golf, getting out there on the course. It's spring. It's awesome. Go out there, hit some balls. But you can find me on Twitter at JMay56. Follow our Instagram, follow our Facebook, follow our Reddit, follow our Twitch, every social media platform that you can imagine. Give us a like, give us a follow, interact with the boys. Let us know what you think. Come hang out. We're giving out picks for just about anything. We always have USC going on. And then we'll have NBA playoffs coming up. So we'll be giving out picks for those. So interact with us. Let us know what you think. And let's go wild with it. Don't sleep on the Lions. Let's get wild with it.
So starting off today's show, we have a very special guest coming in here to help us discuss NBA. He is the pride of University of Dubuque basketball.
University of Dubuque, shout out. No free shout outs, but shout out University of Dubuque. The best university in the world.
Alma mater. We got Chris Rains here with us. How you doing, Chris?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, fellas.
Nice to see you
Absolutely.
again. It's been a while. We had a nice, fun night in San Antonio a couple years ago. Fantastic.
Yep. Great basketball game.
They're not winning tonight, but that's okay. Shit happens.
Yeah, they still got that next game, though. They got one more chance after tonight. Oh, actually, I take it back. They're out. They're out if they lose this one because they're the lower seed.
They are. Yes, sir. But I don't think they would have beat the Clippers anyway, so it doesn't matter.
No.
But yeah, so give us a little bit of insight on what's going on in the NBA because I myself am an expert. I've watched 48 minutes of basketball this year for the NBA. So I don't need to know what's going on, but some of our listeners might need to have a little explanation of what's going on, who's winning these series.
Gotcha. Well, I think from the regular season, you're looking at two teams that are head and shoulders above everybody else right now, and that's definitely Milwaukee Bucks for the East and the Phoenix Suns for the West. You got Philadelphia, you got the questions of James Harden. Is he going to get over his playoff hump that he's had time and time again? He's already been a little disgruntled reportedly with Doc Rivers, so there's concern going on
happened
there.
Fast.
And it's with Harden, it's the expression everywhere you go, there you are, right?
Yeah.
Houston, Oklahoma City, he was a baby, got his big contract in Houston, did well there, but then things didn't work out with him and Chris Paul. And then,
it's always something with him.
And exactly. And he keeps moving. And Joel Embiid, he's shown to be pretty feisty. He's willing to go at with other guys too. So I'm waiting for that to implode. They went high risk, high reward when they traded for James Harden, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If they get the championship right away, then a championship, that's the ultimate deodorant for any sports team. You can't. The Lakers.
Yeah, look at the Raptors.
Yeah,
they went all in on Kawhi Leonard, got their championship, and now it's like, well, we still won the championship.
Yeah, and exactly, and you'll take it and you'll run with it, and
absolutely,
it's the less need strategy all across the NBA.
Yep,
just fuck them picks.
Hey, but in relation to that, is Ben Simmons ever going to play for Brooklyn?
Well, that's the funny thing.
Because I don't know what's going on. Because I watched the Brooklyn game last night, like assuming Ben Simmons was playing, and then I had to like Google it, and I'm like, why is he still not playing? Because I thought the whole thing in Philly was like he wasn't playing because he was like, I'm not playing for Philly, but he got traded months ago. Like, why is he still not playing? Like,
See,
I need something.
and that was my impression of him when he was over in Philly. I'm sick of this. I was the scapegoat. Everyone's blaming me because I didn't shoot. I was thrown on the bus. Forget this. I'm injured. You're paying me anyways, and I'm sticking it to you. But reportedly, he's saying that his back's hurting him. All I could figure, since he hasn't played in forever, is that he was trying to get
Just getting game tape.
a workout in, or he was trying to build up to getting back in the season. They're saying that he could come back this postseason, so it's up in the air.
They need the defense.
They need the defense in the worst way.
Desperately.
And right now, what you look at it, you're looking at Brooklyn. They're thinking more long term than Philadelphia. There's no doubt about that with Ben Simmons. But Kevin Durant is 33. Kyrie Irving is 30. You don't have the next 7 years with these guys. No,
and it's not like Durant's sticking around long term. I think he's on the move as soon as he can be.
Yeah,
right. How long is he in Brooklyn for?
I'm not sure when his contract expires.
I thought it was a 3-year deal, so I thought it was like the end of next year he's gone.
I will say this for KD though, he couldn't get it done in OKC. He went to Golden State, and I think he felt like I exercised those demons, and instead what he got was a whole lot of it was Steph's team.
Yeah,
you were riding shotgun on a team that won 73 games, and so he didn't get the respect that he was looking for.
Yeah.
He can get that in Brooklyn. So I think there's a little bit something that if he were to leave, I don't think it wouldn't be a juggernaut like the Golden State Warriors, because there's not a juggernaut like them going right now. But he'd have to go to a team where he's the head honcho, where he's the man, so he can get that respect. Because a lot of people said, well, they didn't need you. They had 73 wins without you. They won a championship without you 2 years before. So it's really interesting to me to see what happens there in Brooklyn if Ben Simmons does get into the play into this postseason. Another question is Luka Doncic, and I'm sure he's probably going to give it a go, but he strained his calf in the last game of the regular season. And
I was shocked when I was putting the model together today to see that he's out. Like I had no idea. I was just absolutely shocked by that.
One of the craziest things about Luka Doncic that I don't know, like I just found this out like last year. He's been playing professional basketball since he was like 14.
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's freaking wild.
And he was playing with men. He's playing overseas.
He was grown-ass men, like in the European leagues.
The second best league in the world, and he was MVP when he was a teen, like baby. He's so he's been ahead of his time, and Maverick fans should be very thankful that he fell back to them, because he should have been the number one overall pick behind such 2020.
And he seems like a guy that's going to stick around the franchise.
Let me tell a few stories here about Chris and his NBA draft. Just genius. Like, I don't know how else to put it. So a few years ago, we're just texting back and forth about who the Bulls should draft, and he texted me a video of Donovan Mitchell, and just says the Bulls need to draft this guy. And we were talking about like the 7th pick or something.
Is Donovan Mitchell good?
So
yeah.
He scores a little. So of course the Bulls don't do it. They draft. I forget who they draft.
We got Lauri Markkanen that year.
Lauri Markkanen. Okay.
And
I thought and then of course Donovan Mitchell goes to the Jazz at like 16 overall or something and wins Rookie of the Year. And then a year later, he texts me, we need to pray that Luka falls somehow, or the Bulls need to go up and get him. And I'm saying, man, I don't know how sold I am on him. Like, he looks kind of slow in his videos, and how much can he make up for that in the NBA?
Trash in that draft.
Yeah.
There was like 3 people saying like Luka is like incredible. He's an all-world talent. Like it's gonna translate. And then everybody else was saying like, don't overdraft this European scrub. Like he's trash. Like all of this. Like if he even goes top 10, that'll be a disgrace on the league. Just absolutely like killing this kid.
Yeah. So of course he goes a little earlier than the Bulls picked, and Dallas has a great player in Luka Doncic now, and the Bulls don't.
The crazy thing about that is like Trae Young's still very good too, and it was Trae Young, Luka. Like at least like nobody. I wouldn't say nobody lost that trade because I mean Atlanta just killed Charlotte tonight, and Trae Young went off. So it's like
and at first it was looking like it was all Dallas. Like they fleeced them on, they just killed them on the deal, and now Atlanta had that run in the playoffs last year. And I think that gap is closing a bit.
Trae Young's very good. And he's getting better and better.
What's happened with the league, though, is that Mike D'Antoni, in large part, when he brought that European style over to the U.S., when they went 4 out, basically. Well, what you're doing now is
4 out?
Yep. So you got 4 offensive players on the perimeter, only 1 big underneath. Well, what you're doing is you beat your guy, and it basically essentially becomes a 2-on-1 game. If you can bust your guy off the dribble, it's 2-on-1. It's you, your big man, and the other team's big man on defense. 2-on-1 is what you're playing. Whereas what it was before in the 90s, it was 3-on-2. It was a lot of 3-guard, 2-guard, wing, small forward. You had your power forwards that were kind of big and blocky, like I think Charles Oakley, Kevin Willis, and they couldn't extend to the 3-point line. Well, those guys were in the paint area, and you got center there. So you beat your guy off the dribble. You're not playing 2-on-1. You're playing 3-on-2.
Yeah.
With 3-on-2, you got one guy that can rotate to the pass, and you got help, and guys on the perimeter can come in. Now it's can you spread with shooting, and how many guys can you get in the NBA on your team that can shoot and that can guard between 3 or 4 positions? If you can get more guys that are about 6'5" to 6'9" that have guard skills. That's what they're looking for now.
It's becoming like a positionless league.
Yep. And what's happened is that big blocky power forward has worked its way out of the league. I mean, now we got stretch 5s. Embiid's shooting 3s for crying out loud now.
Yeah. But I mean, Embiid and Jokic are like the top 2 MVP candidates. So it's funny that that's the way the league's shifting. Yeah. And then the 2 top vote getters for MVP are true centers. Like they both stretch, but like they're still like about as true as definition of like a 5 as
7-footers with guard skills.
Yeah. And they got bodies on them. They got man bodies. A lot of times you see these really skinny centers in today's league. In the 90s, you had these big, thick centers. You had Robinson,
David Robinson, Patrick Ewing.
Yep. Yeah. And now it's really morphed to getting smaller, but it's going to be
Barkley was tiny running the 5 like back for Phoenix.
What's that?
I said Barkley was tiny running the 5 for Phoenix.
Oh, Barkley was under. Well, Barkley is 6'4" is the funny thing.
Yeah.
If you look at pictures with him and Jordan, you can see clearly he's 2 inches short, and it's been reported that he's 6'4", and you can see it in the close-up pictures. He's 2 inches, so 6'4", and he was leading the league in rebounding a couple times. Rodman got it most of the time when he was playing with them, but it's amazing.
Rodman wasn't as tall as other guys either, though.
No, and Rodman,
he was like 6'7", 6'8".
He was 6'7", and he was rebounding, but he just had like some guys just have a knack for doing things. Yeah, and he just had. He
was the worm, man. He was just a worm.
It's like
just watching the film. Like it comes off this way, I grab it. If it comes off this way, I grab it. If he's shooting, it comes off here. Like,
and the other thing is he wasn't going to be outworked because after Bulls games, he would do an hour-long cardio session on the Stairmaster. Like he would, after playing a full 48 minutes game, and you've got more games coming up. It's ridiculous what he would do, but I look at what's going on with the bracket, and really it's Phoenix strong in the West. You can say Golden State, but I think what puts Golden State in question, because they had a really good start to the season, and Golden State and Phoenix were neck and neck, was that Steph Curry's got injured. And now they're trying to get him back.
Steph Curry injured?
So he's even questionable to play the start of this series or even later into the series. I'm not
With Denver?
I wasn't sure about it. Yeah, it was saying that he's hopeful to be back for the series, but
I didn't realize that. But like I said, I've
Yeah, you
watched
look at-
48 minutes of NBA this year.
And you look at their matchup, Golden State Warriors got Denver. That's not like if you're looking as a 3 seed, you're not thinking you're going to get Denver. Like that doesn't.
Yeah.
That's not a good reward for being a top 4 team. I mean, they're not the 1 seed by any means, but you don't want to go against Denver for your 1 seed.
yeah,
Porter plays for Denver, right?
What's that?
he's not playing.
He's out.
Is he Denver or Utah? I always get him mixed up.
Who's that?
Michael Porter Jr.?
Michael Porter Jr. He's Denver, and
Yeah.
But he's
out?
out. He's been out all year.
he's out, and Murray's been out. So that's the saving grace for them.
Murray's out too?
Yep. But the saving
Who do
grace
they
they have there is for Denver is of course that they got Jokic, they got Joker, and
Yeah.
what's Golden State's weak if you can pound them inside.
Yeah.
And
Is Clay healthy?
Well, let's go ahead and start off just like with the first game and then move game to game.
that's awesome.
So, how about Minnesota Memphis? What do you got in this series? What are your thoughts there on Cat versus Ja?
I'm gonna be honest, I haven't seen a whole lot of Memphis. Cat looked really bad in that play-in game. I mean,
They got better when he fouled out.
Yeah, he fouled out and he couldn't get himself out of trouble there, but they got the win.
And who's the rookie they got? The kid out of Georgia.
They got
Maybe
that
second year.
Anthony
Edwards.
The second year. Yeah.
Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
Edwards is a beast. Or he was last night. Like I said, 48
really,
minutes of basketball.
The way I look at NBA basketball typically is who's got the better star. And if I look at Minnesota, I'm like, who's their star? Cat's been an established name for a while. And Edwards, as we just mentioned, you look at Memphis, you don't think twice. Ja Morant. And I think their star power at the top is stronger. And I think, the record, typically, NCAA, you get those upsets because it's one game, right? But, first round, used to be best of 5. Now it's best of 7. So it should go Memphis on Ja and what he's done. And the funny thing about it is with Ja Morant being injured, they were still winning without him. Not that they're better without him, but it shows that they're not Ja or bust. They have
Memphis had a rookie who was playing real well at one point this year. I forget his name. It's failing me I can't remember it, but they had a rookie who was really killing it when Ja was out.
Yeah, I failed to
Dylan Brooks, maybe, or that might have been a different guy.
Yeah,
don't matter.
I've got a ton of Memphis, honestly, but he's got to go with them, I think, because Ja's got that factor. And Minnesota, I think they had 23 wins the year before. So I think you look at the way they were celebrating after the win. I think they're kind of like, we're happy we're here. Like for them, this is like they feel like they've reached their ceiling almost. Where Memphis, I think 56 wins on the season. I think they're looking for a lot more as the 2 seed. I think it's a different mentality. I think and with home court advantage, I give it to Memphis. I think
I do love some Patrick Beverly though. Like him getting wild with it last night was awesome.
That was a whole lot.
He took over that fourth quarter.
That was a whole lot of stick it to you right there because he got let go from the Clippers.
Got ousted from the Clippers.
Yeah, and so that
after
was
years there.
That so he takes off his jersey and celebrating up there.
Yeah,
but all right,
Cupcake. What do we got next up?
What's that?
Cupcake. What do we got next up here?
I can get you another 2 if you want.
Here we go. All right. So we got the Raptors and the 76ers. So what are your thoughts on this one? So the Raptors are they're healthy again.
Yeah, how's James Harden going to be?
Yeah.
I mean, know what you're going to get with Embiid. He's going to get you 25 to 30. Scoring champ, he got a little bit over 30.
He's a killer, man. He'll step on your throat. I love watching Embiid.
People want to say,
very passionate.
people want to say Toronto, And the idea that I think people are waiting for the fall for Harden, but I think that Toronto without a whole lot of star power, is Siakam maybe. You got to go with Philly in round one on this. I think it's just too tall of a task for Toronto. I don't think Harden can play poorly enough for them to trip up on Toronto for 4 games. I think that might come a little bit later in the playoffs.
They got some bench shooters too for Philly, don't they?
Is that for Philly?
They got some shooters coming off the bench too.
Well, and they got Tobias Harris, nice little player.
Yeah.
And Maxey. So
is Danny Green still there, or is he somewhere else?
Danny Green, I believe, still there. He's a little long in the tooth at this point in his career.
Yeah.
So
a couple of years ago, he was still killing it.
But Philly should get it done. I mean,
yeah.
The
model like Philly to sweep. I think Toronto's good for a game or two, but that's probably because they just fight. But that's about it.
It's the who's got the stars again. Embiid's clearly the best player in the series, and then you go Harden. And so it's tough when the 2 best players in the series are playing for the other squad.
Yeah. All right, Cupcake. What's up next here? We got the Nets and the Celtics. So we already touched on a little, but Brooklyn's missing Joe Harris and Ben Simmons, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
And then Robert Williams is out for Boston.
But the 2 best players in the series are Kyrie and Kevin Durant.
They are the 2 best players. But this is where I'm going to break my rule.
Jason Tatum was your other big draft
break my rule, though.
That I forgot about.
I do believe that if I had to choose between KD and Kyrie Irving or Tatum and Brown, I would take Durant and Kyrie. But the gap isn't astronomically great. Tatum has taken his game to a different level this season.
Yeah.
There's been talk about him getting some MVP votes. KD missed a lot this season. Kyrie, with not the whole vaccination thing, he missed a ton. So you got a chemistry issue going on in Brooklyn. You also got a huge gap from their 1 and 2 guys to whoever is. I can't tell you who their number 3 guy is off the top of my. You could.
Patty Mills is on that team.
Patty Mills,
Marcus Aldridge is on that team. I mean,
Seth Curry.
Yes.
You got undersized shooters.
Yeah, they're just studded with like older guys that used to be good.
They have to outscore you is where they're at. I watched the game with them against Cleveland, and Cleveland's. I mean, if you're going preseason, the Cleveland should be nothing for them to take out.
I mean, Cleveland was only there because of a hot start to the year. That was it.
Kind of like the Bulls hanging on.
And they couldn't. The Brooklyn Nets were up 40-20. But the Brooklyn Nets were up 40-20 after the first quarter, and they couldn't put them away because they couldn't get stops. They just kept coming in. And the other thing I noticed is for a long time, it was like they had 8 points in the second quarter for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, if it's not KD or Kyrie, and those 2 were like as close to perfect as you could be in that game, it's like there's not anybody else that can create. Now, Ben Simmons cannot shoot, but what he put the ball on the deck, he can get to the rim and get someone to look. He can pass the ball. He is that big, long body that can defend.
He's great on defense.
Yep. So I think they can get away with it. They might be able to get away with it against Boston, but they won't be. They'll have no shot with him after because they'll be playing Milwaukee, Chicago next, which in all likelihood will be Milwaukee. And in the Boston-Brooklyn series, man, I'd have to go Boston. And I don't even care about the seeding so much. I'm just looking at the depth. It's funny because if you ask me preseason who would be the higher seed, I would say put Brooklyn at 2 and put Boston at 7. And it happened to completely flip due to the injuries and everything. But Boston is just those guys have been together all year. They're a well-oiled machine. They're battle-tested. They had so many years making the Eastern Conference Finals together. They got Marcus Smart, who you had Gary Payton saying that he should get some votes for defense player of the year. He should win a defense player of the year.
He's a dog.
So
you don't think the Robert Williams injury hurts him any?
I'm sure it does, but I just don't know if Brooklyn will get enough stops or if they have enough guys that can do stuff off it. I'd say
I've seen a lot of like Boston media being like he was like the glue that held everything together for that team almost, because they had that amazing run like late December through like late February where they just went on a tear and they looked like the best team in basketball. And then as soon as he got hurt, everybody was like, "Oh, the season's over." He wasn't the best player on the team, but he was like the most important player on the team. Is what I saw a lot of Boston guys.
Look who has a basketball take.
and the thing is,
I listen to sports media.
I think for me, the way I'm looking at it, though, is, and that does diminish Boston. Don't get me wrong, but I think Brooklyn just has so many questions. The problem is they don't have one problem; they have two. Yeah. They don't have enough scoring. They don't have enough depth, and they don't have any defense. Like if you can't score great outside of your two studs, if you play great defense, you can get away with that.
Yeah,
or vice versa. You're looking at two problems. You got the water's running on high and the drain is wide open, and that tub's never going to fill. You're in trouble. I don't know.
Ben Simmons really is the perfect fit for that team if he was just healthy and playing.
Because
he is absolutely what that team's missing. But I don't think from what you told me earlier, it doesn't look like he's going to play this year, which really sucks because KD and Kyrie are only getting older. But
KD's entering LeBron territory if he's gotta do something more.
Well, the great thing for KD's game is he's a lot of shooting. He
won't take the beating that LeBron does.
Yeah, LeBron's pulled it back. He's done a lot more 3-point shooting this year. I think he's realized
it worked for him.
The record.
I think he's realized this is more efficient. I get the extra point. I don't take the beating. It takes a lot less energy to shoot a three.
All he cares about is getting the scoring title. How do you have 3 MVPs on a team with Anthony Davis and not make the playoffs when 66% of the teams in the NBA make the playoffs? That's outrageous.
Well, and you're throwing the lifesaver of if you don't make the playoffs, we got the 9 and 10 seed for you for a play-in. Anthony Davis played 40 of the 82 games. Westbrook, granted, that was a failed experiment, but he played just about all the games this season. I think what happened with LeBron there is he started hearing wind that, hey, he's just getting these points in garbage time. He's just going for the scoring title. And he got wind that this is going to look bad if now that your team's bounced from the play-in. If you play these last couple games, qualify for the scoring title, and you win it, they're going to look at it you're just a selfish player and that's all you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he did have a legit ankle injury. If you saw it, it was legit. I think that kind of cinched it for him where he's just you know what? I'm not taking the heat for this, and my ankle isn't 100% anyways. Forget it. I'm just going to let this go. But he was clearly – there were games where you're like, this game's over. And he should probably be resting for the next game. And he's out there, and he's putting up points. But, hey, he's chasing Kareem.
I saw the rolled ankle. I would have walked it off, but that's just me. But, I guess I just have more guts and determination than LeBron James, it sounds like.
Well, right. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Lakers in this offseason if they're able to move Russell Westbrook. He's
what
got
are they
that.
Do?
Yeah.
The only thing I can figure,
LeBron's the GM. I don't know what else they do. It's they already tore apart. If they would have just had the team that was there when LeBron got there and didn't trade everybody away, they'd be a much better team than they are now.
Or just a mix of it.
Brandon Ingram, put Brandon Ingram on that team right now. They're freaking incredible.
If you look at all the talent now, you can't blame them for the Anthony Davis trade because they got their championship from that.
Technically, if you consider that a championship.
Championship.
It's a bubble. It's a ring. It might be a ring pop, but it's a ring.
You've had a couple of NBA players say everybody in the ring was just stoned off their ass and drunk all the time. So
if you look at all the young talent that they had that they've let walk out that door, you had Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, Jordan Clarkson, Kyle Kuzma,
Brandon Ingram,
Julius Randle. You got Zubac. You look at I'm 6 deep off the top of my head. You don't need to keep all those guys because you do need
Yeah.
some older guys, some vets, but they went completely polar opposite in win now mode. But the problem is when you had those older guys with LeBron in Miami, when you had Ray Allen, Mike Miller, you had guys that are longer in the tooth. He was in his late 20s or so he could be the motor. Well, LeBron's older now.
Those were also shooters. Like they didn't surround LeBron with shooters. Like the veterans that brought in weren't shooters, and LeBron's always excelled with shooters. And LeBron's obviously the GM, so it's like how he doesn't realize that he needs shooters around him is like baffling to me. It's like they're like, okay, we're gonna go get you Buddy Hield, and he was like, nah, get me Westbrook. Like, why?
Yeah. I just want to say that your mention of Mike Miller and Ray Allen just gave me a little bit of trauma as a Bulls fan.
I hate Ray Allen. I hate Ray Allen.
When Ray Allen went from Boston to Miami, that closed the door on Boston and opened it up because it's LeBron and Wade, especially then. LeBron wasn't a great three-point shooter, and Wade was never a three-point shooter. So you could pack it in a little bit. And then they got Ray Allen and they got Mike Miller, and it's like, well, what are you going to do at this point? It's just too much. You can't.
It for me too.
But yeah, it's the Lakers. I believe the one thing I believe they do have for Russell Westbrook that does give them a chance to offload his contract is I believe next year is his last year of the contract. So if you have other teams that have guys that have, let's say, them not as ugly as Westbrook's contract, but let's say they're not an attractive contract and they have 2 or 3 years on it, maybe the Lakers say, hey, we know this devil.
We'll take it. Yeah.
Hey, we'll take on these new problems if you take Russell Westbrook, and teams will be like glad to take Russell Westbrook just because we can offload him in 1 year.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for the Lakers, though, that gives you an argument. Do you want to do or not? You only have 1 more year with Westbrook. Then you're free of that, $45+ million? I believe it's like $47 million.
Yeah.
And then you can use that money to get – and it's real hard to attract people to Los Angeles, of course. So
obviously.
So it'll be interesting.
It's harder to attract people to LeBron, but
and I believe they could also even they would spread out that contract over 3 years.
Yeah.
Where it would be about a $15 million hit over 3 years, which I could see.
But what are they gonna do if so? Westbrook is gone, obviously, like one way or the other, I would assume. But it's like, what do they do?
Well, I'm hearing that I heard Indiana that Brogdon might be. Indiana's blowing it up. They just want they're in the process mode, like Philly was about 10 years ago.
Lillard's been linked to him for 7 years now, and he still isn't there.
So they have to find those.
The LA media is just like they just find the best player on the planet. They're like, oh, Steph Curry, he wants to come to Los Angeles, and it's like, does he really?
Yeah. They're gonna have to find those teams that are just outside the playoffs or the play-in, and that are looking to really suck and tank and try and get
stuck in purgatory.
I saw Los Angeles media talking about DeJounte Murray. It was like already penciled in to be a Laker next year, and I was like, "What makes you think you're getting DeJounte Murray? Like, in what world are the Spurs just gonna be like, here you go?"
I don't see Popovich doing that. I heard that.
No.
I think that a lot of people don't realize how good DeJounte Murray is because he plays for the Spurs, and they don't see him.
Yep.
He's
so
incredible.
they don't even realize that you're talking about a guy who's like a borderline all-star.
He's a borderline defensive player of the year.
Yep, yeah, he's all-star. But Los Angeles, they're gonna. It's tough because they got a lot of money wrapped up. Even if you fix the Russell Westbrook situation, still got the AD, and can he get right? Can he stay healthy for a season? He had the bubble, and everyone was waiting for him to blow up, and then instead it's been digression. His 3-point shooting, I believe, was like 18% or something like that this season.
Yeah,
he's fallen way back to the pack. As far as, if you look at his numbers, he's over 50%. He's like a 22 and 10 guy. So you're looking at the numbers like, that's good. But
he was arguably the best player in basketball when they traded for him.
Yeah. But if you watch it, when you watch it, his shot, it's not what it was. For whatever reason, he was off this season and he's injured all the time.
Lost it.
So that's the other thing they got to figure out. So Lakers got their work cut out for them, but We'll see what they can do this offseason. If they can move Westbrook, I think that's the first thing. They got to get him out of there just because it's
all I can say is when Michael Jordan led a bunch of no-names for the Wizards to a winning record, 66% of the league didn't make the playoffs like they do now, and he still did it older than LeBron. So
he finished those 2 seasons in Washington at the ages of 39 and 40. I believe they had 37 wins. They had the same amount of wins both seasons. And you had Jerry Stackhouse shooting like 42% one season, and you had a baby Rip Hamilton the next year. And after that, you had a whole lot of nothing. You had an old Christian Laettner at like 32. That was like 8 points a game. And he's doing it with Washington. You're looking at the Lakers. They're doing it with 4 guys that were top 75 players. Granted, Melo and Dwight aren't what they used to be. But, and Dwight missed it. It was Westbrook, Davis, LeBron, and Melo that were the top 4. But then you have Dwight too. So they just went too old too. But and also
it's like the same thing when they brought in Nash and all those guys at the end of Kobe's career. It's like, let's just bring in all these old guys and make a run. Yeah. And then it's like, why isn't this working?
And you need a mix. You need a mix. I want to point out, since you pointed out the Jordan thing, and a little bit of Chicago favoritism here. Michael also won 4 games as a rookie with a team that was called, quote, from the Last Dance documentary, the Traveling Cocaine Circus. He won more games as a rookie with that squad.
Don't tell that to a LeBron fan.
I'll probably get beat up if there's LeBron fans watching this. But I'm just saying. I'm just saying one
will tar and feather you in front of your family.
One guy has 6 rings and missed the playoffs 2 times at the ages of 39 and 40. The other guy has 4 rings, 6 finals losses, and has missed the playoffs 4 times now. Just saying. And if you want to ride on finals,
we're a firm believer in science and math on this show, so we trust you on that.
Numbers never lie. Never lie.
Well, my thing is this. I'll admit, I am biased to Jordan. But here's the thing. The difference in Jordan and LeBron, if you swing it, I would say absolutely LeBron. If you tell me LeBron James has 8 NBA championships in 8 tries, 8 NBA Finals MVPs, he has 1 more Defensive Player awards than Jordan. He has 2. If you give him that gap, I'm not denying LeBron's GOAT at that point.
It's kind of like the Tom Brady Joe Montana debate, where it was always like Joe Montana has more rings, and all of a sudden Brady has like 14, and you're like, okay, Brady's the greatest.
Yeah,
at some point you just have to stop denying it. But LeBron still hasn't got there.
And the thing that's tough with
it doesn't matter how many. It doesn't matter how many Instagram posts he has, talking to his former self, talking to his future self, talking to his former self, going back and forth, having communications in the future and in the past. Like, it still doesn't matter because, like, Jordan is better.
And the tough thing is, and I don't want to get Q going because he'll go nuts on football here, but Montana was 4 for 4 in the Super Bowl, 12 touchdowns thrown, no interceptions thrown, and scrambled for a TD. That's as perfect as you can get in the Super Bowl. What changes it with the LeBron Jordan thing is you're not looking at LeBron saying he's 4 for 4 in the finals to Jordan's 6. Yeah. So you can't even say it's off by a bit. And you look at the runs. Jordan won 6 titles in 7 years he played because the 1 year he was playing baseball. So 6 titles in 7. LeBron, his run, 4 championships in 9 years. So there's a gap there. You look at PER, Jordan's a bit above LeBron. You look at first team defense, Jordan has 9 of those. LeBron only has 5, and I think that's a big gap.
You look at complaints to the refs, and LeBron's at 1 million, and Jordan's at 17.
Yep. So there's a
free
gap
throws
there.
with their eyes closed. I mean, you can go all day with this.
But I will say
night spent gambling and playing golf like 12 hours before the game started.
Well, Q saw the Jeremy Roenick.
Mention that real quick. That was amazing.
Yeah, he played 36 holes of golf and was drinking beer and lost to Jeremy Roenick. And he said, he's like, I bet you my money back. I score like 50 and we win by 20, something like that. And he's like, you're on. He's like, he's been drinking beer, been playing baseball, goes off and does it. And
he do whatever he wanted. But this was supposed to be an NBA playoffs podcast, and we've
Yep,
been
yep.
talking.
Yeah, so
LeBron.
actually,
I think
I
that's-
had one more question about Michael Jordan. You think he could come back and play point for the Bulls this week against the Bucks?
we need him to play small forward and gain about 30 pounds because the Bulls are going to be in over their heads when it comes to Giannis Antetokounmpo, like everybody else in the league is. Unfortunately for the Bulls, out of everybody that they could have matched up with, they got the absolute worst matchup they could have, I believe, because where are the Bulls soft? It's their front court. We got Patrick Williams back. Nice guy, but he's playing a little undersized at that 4. Vucevic, he's a nice stretch 5. He opens up the court for everybody, but he's no defensive player of the year nominee in any world. And you're looking at Brooklyn, they got Lopez, they got Giannis. And on top of that, you got Ball out. And so with Lonzo Ball out for the Bulls, he really created a lot because you're looking at Levine, he's trying to get his. You look at DeRozan, he's trying to get his. Yeah, they can make a little bit, but Ball really got things stirring and would get things going for the Bulls. Caruso's nice, and he'll hustle. He'll give you everything he's got, but he doesn't have that innate ability to just create. And he's a good passer, don't get me wrong, but it's just a little bit different. There's a different level of talent there. There's a reason why
Lonzo's a special level of passer, and that's
When
just
is
not something
Lonzo?
you can gain
Can
overnight.
Lonzo get back in the playoffs, or is he just out for the year?
I believe he's out for the year.
Okay.
I hope I'm wrong.
My understanding is he's just out.
I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But I see, and trust me, if there's a way I could try and argue my way into this, I would. I don't see any way possible that the Bulls win this series. Milwaukee's a final machine, and the Bulls are limping into the playoffs. First half of the season was one Bulls team. The second half season of the Bulls has been a mess, and they haven't been able to beat the better teams. And when I say they haven't, I mean really, they have not been able to beat the better teams of this league.
When they started hot, they had one of the easier schedules, like through the first third of the season, and then it tailspinned after that. I mean, they had the injuries that affected it too, but it wasn't good after that first third of the season when it was a really easy schedule, unfortunately.
Yeah, that early season magic's kind of faded away. There's Milwaukee's advancing, and they're looking at whoever is the left hanging between Brooklyn and Boston after that. I wish I could say that the Bulls would be there, but there's just no way that their problem is they won't be able to stop Giannis. Yeah. They don't have a physical body that can do that. And we don't have the big man behind us to reinforce if you do get by us.
To force Giannis into shooting, or, he can get to the paint whenever he wants against the Bulls.
And then on top of that, they've got Middleton, who's proven to be a tried and true guy. He reminds me a little bit of Paul Pierce. He's not the most flashy guy, but he'll hit timely shots. It's like frustrated. Milwaukee's going to take it, and if the Bulls get 1, I'd be satisfied. If they get 2, I'd be surprised. I think Milwaukee takes it.
I'd be surprised by 1 even. I mean, so I already bet Milwaukee to sweep and Milwaukee by 5, just because I don't see the Bulls winning more than 1, and I honestly don't even see them winning 1. But I'm hopeful.
It's tough. It's sad, but it is what it is at this point.
Yeah. All right. Let's roll on into the next one we got here, which is the Nuggets and the Warriors. So this model is showing the Warriors in 6 to 7 games, assuming that Steph plays and is as effective as he usually is. That's the big question here.
And that's everything. Is Steph going to be there? If Steph's healthy, he's like gravity. Everything pulls to him because he can stretch you out, so far on the perimeter. And then on top of that, you have Clay. Well, if you're playing with Clay and Steph, you've got 2 guys that you have to absolutely pull to, and you cannot leave. It makes all those other players so much better. It's a big reason why Draymond Green is able to do so much off the dribble and create for those.
I've never even thought of that. That makes a lot of sense because he's a good passer too. So you can't just leave one of those guys by any means.
Yep. And so you go pick and roll. You're not giving Steph a second off of that pick. And so, well, like their first championship they won before KD got there, it was a lot of pick and roll with Steph and Draymond Green. They would double Steph because they were like, "You're not beating us," is what Cleveland said. He dumps it off to Draymond Green, and what happened at that point? They're playing 4-on-3, and when Draymond Green's got the ball, he was just looking at Cleveland dared Andre Iguodala to beat them, and Andre Iguodala did. So Andre Iguodala got that first Finals MVP, but it was because they said we're not letting Steph shoot on us, and they just make Draymond Green a better player. And don't get me wrong, Draymond Green makes them better because Steph doesn't have to do the ball handling responsibilities. Draymond can dribble the ball, bring it up. That frees Steph up to come off screens and get those open looks where the defense isn't all zoned in on him because he has the ball. It's if Steph's healthy, I'm going with them because they have that. They still have their same coach. They got Clay, they got Steph, they got Green. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm rolling with them if they do. If they don't, it's Steph or bust for them. I really believe it.
Yeah.
And not that
I don't know how much you've seen of them, but how is I know Clay came back earlier in the year and he was pretty rusty when he came back. Did he really find his form towards the end of the year?
I was about to ask the same thing. Like, is Clay balling out or what?
Clay had a game the other night. I remember seeing that, and he looked all right. Clay's the kind of guy though. He'll never be, in my opinion. He was perfect for Golden State. He'd never be a guy you'd put as a number one.
Yeah.
Because he's not ultra athletic. He's a good defender because he'll play hard, but he's not kicking someone's butt off the bounce. He's not jumping over guys and dunking it. His game is, they have a YouTube video of him. He scores like 40-some, 50-some, and he has 7 dribbles.
His highest scoring game, he had 4 dribbles.
Yeah.
He had 57 points and 4 dribbles.
That's nuts.
And so the problem
one
with that,
fast break is more than that.
The tough thing with that, though, is when the other team can just zone in on you and say you're the guy, well, then we're going to take away that shot the best we can, and we're going to make you put it on the dribble. You can't just hone in on Clay when Steph's out there, too. Because
is Wiggins still there, or did he leave?
Wiggins still there.
Wiggins is there.
Okay. Yep. And so
James Wiseman isn't playing though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Wiseman was supposed to come back, and that hurts them because the matchup with Denver. You're looking at Joker, and you want a big body to play defense on them. They're going to have to, they're probably going to have to double. You're looking at a real problem inside for Golden State. It's really a contrast to styles. Denver's going to want to pound inside, and they're going to want space and pace and really run the court and get the ball to the perimeter, get to their shooters. If the reports on Steph is that he's healthy and he's good to go, then I'd go with Golden State. If not, it's tough. It's really tough. Because Clay doesn't create dream. Poole's been good for Golden State though. Poole's really emerged as a stud. Yeah, it's I would go based on Steph. If Steph's there, definitely Golden State. If he's not, you got a good series. You probably have to favor Denver a little bit there.
So I'm not too familiar with the injury report here, but is there any chance that Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. come back, or are they both just out for the season?
I believe they're both out. They've been out all season.
They're done.
And
I had to look it up for the model. They're not coming back.
So it's not like they might be back for game 4 if they make it there, nothing like that.
And Michael Porter Jr. he cashed in his lottery ticket at the right time because he got big old fat paycheck. He signed a big contract, and then he got injured like a second later. So
he had back injuries coming out of college, didn't he? He had
he had a big question mark,
and that's why he dropped.
And Q, more so than me, wanted us to draft him, and it was looking
I wanted Porter.
And you know what? He looked like
he looked fantastic.
Because you look at his ceiling, he's 6 foot forever. He's long. He can shoot, and it looked like Denver. And you can't say it was because we don't know how this plays out. They definitely got good value for their pick already, but it's going to be interesting to see if he can make it another 3 or 4 years at a high level. So that they could say it wasn't
to build on a career.
A wasted project.
So Which draft? Who did the Bulls end up with that year? Was that Carter Jr.?
That was Wendell Carter Jr. They went safe, and you know what? And I remember.
So that was what I wanted Porter.
I thought it was
like,
Kobe White.
at least
I
you
thought that
get
was the Kobe
upside,
White.
even if
and that's when the Bulls still had Gar and Pax, and I said I could see them being gun shy because of Derrick Rose. The injuries and everything that happened there, they see this guy. He's great potential, but the injury concerns. I wonder if they're like, man, let's.
I would say
not
Derrick
go down
Rose
that road
worked
again.
out pretty freaking well for the Bulls. Like,
Yeah.
not for a full career,
I mean,
but what you got out of him, like, you can't really ask much more for a guy coming out of college.
No.
Like,
yeah.
And you couldn't find. Well, Thibodeau asked so much out of.
I mean, ran him
Derrick
into the
Rose.
ground.
And that's the thing.
He did what like NFL like coaches do with every single running back that comes out of the draft. Like, let's just run this freaking dude under the ground and like make him have a 5-year career.
See, to me,
Like-
Tom Thibodeau has been in the wrong role for coaching as far as the team and the fit and where they're at. He got to the Bulls when they were young and building up, and now he's with the Knicks. In the beginning of the season, they were kind of building up. They had a little something going there with Randall and Barrett. I think he's more of a coach that you want a team that's you've been to the conference finals, you've sniffed the NBA finals, but you want to win now. You want to cash in your chips, and then you put him in there.
You go all in for 1 year and you get Thibodeau. That's about all you can do with him.
You're saying we're giving you your 2 to 4 years.
He's not a franchise builder.
Yep, 2 to 4 years to get everything out of the squad that you can. Let's get that championship. We got to go now.
Yeah, he's the guy that squeezes every little bit of juice out of that like lemon that you're like trying to like put on like your fajitas on a Sunday night. Like, I just
That's
want
what
all
I'm gonna call
this lemon
Thibodeau
juice
from now on.
here.
Yeah,
But
he's a juicer.
if he's if you got a young team that you maybe have a 7-year window with, he's just gonna drain everybody.
you drain them before they ever reach their full potential.
Yeah,
and that's
Yeah.
you look at Luol Deng and Joakim Noah and Derrick Rose. They all battled injuries. Now I can't you can't say it was because of Tibbs, but he
kind of because of Tibbs.
He gave them high minutes, and you could probably associate it with it. You can't prove it 100%, but it's.
I mean, you could look around the league. Like, Pop started resting players like back in like 2007.
Yeah,
like Duncan was already like getting rested like 5 years into the league.
Yeah.
And
they rested
people used
Duncan
to get so mad about it.
And they rested Robinson quite a bit to get Duncan.
Exactly. Or I mean, the year before they drafted Duncan, like, was the most obvious tank job of all time that was never talked about. Robinson played like 15 games that year, and he was an MVP like 5 years before. Like,
dude, I'm
so
telling you,
incredible.
when the Spurs are a championship team, people just forget they exist.
People also forget Popovich was the GM. And he just and we had a very good coach at the time, and he was just like, "Nah, I'm gonna be the coach." It just becomes like one of the greatest coaches of all time. He was like, "Nah, 47 games ain't enough. Like, I'll do this myself." It just fires the coach and like makes himself the coach. Like, and
I'm glad
23 years later, we're still here.
I'm glad for Popovich that he's getting the opportunity to coach Team USA. Coach K fell down, then he's got his opportunity because Coach K, I believe, had 3 Olympic teams that he coached. So
Popovich just has one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that Popovich is going to get his chance because at their best, I felt like the Spurs were the best passing team I've seen at the NBA level in a long time at least. Maybe since the Celtics.
That 2013 championship was one of the most like pure basketball just domination I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. And like you had a young Kawhi Leonard who was emerging as a star. You had a Tim Duncan on his last leg. You had Tony Parker on his last leg. You had a 3-and-D guy in Danny Green. You had Manu Ginobili, who was a major liability at the time, if anything, and they just absolutely swept the floor with that Heat team. Yeah, just off of spacing and moving the ball.
Well, and that was their redemption tour because
they should have won the year before, but Ray Allen's a little bitch.
Yep, Miami's 4 runs. They lost to Dallas. They beat OKC in the finals. They beat the Spurs in the finals, and Duncan missed that shot it was like pretty point
Kawhi
blank.
Leonard also missed 2 free throws with 17 seconds left in the game.
Oh yeah, to let that open. But I remember Duncan.
And then Ginobili gave up a wide open 3 because he slipped. I mean, there was so many things that happened in the last 30 seconds of that game that I can document and write down that just still to this day drive me mad. I mean, we had a 17-point lead with 1:17 left.
Well, if they play that,
blew it.
If they play that game 100 times, they win that thing at least 95, and that's lowballing it.
Probably 97.
The chances of that were astronomical. But what that gave them was that fuel for that revenge tour.
Yeah.
And so
I think it would have still been there. I mean, I think the team would have been fine either way. I think we could have won back to back. Like I said, Kawhi Leonard was starting to kind of emerge that year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you knew he was a beast on defense, but he finally started getting a shot. And then just so many things went wrong in the last 17 seconds of that game that could never be replicated. Like, Kawhi was a 93% free throw shooter on the year. Like, 17 seconds left. We're up by 5. He misses 2 free throws. They go down and make a 3. Tim Duncan has a 17-foot elbow shot that he's made his entire career at like a 79% rate, wide open, misses it. They go down, tie it up, and it's just like, what is going on here?
And they beat up Popovich because Duncan wasn't on the court. And they point to LeBron misses the 3. Chris Bosh gets the offensive rebound, then kicks it to Ray Allen, which of course is the shot.
Yeah, one of the best rebounds of all time. It just fell right into his lap.
But the thing that I don't beat Popovich up for that is because I think he thought, if I put Tim Duncan, especially at his age then, if I put him on the perimeter,
playing defense,
they'll put him in pick and roll.
Yeah,
and LeBron can bust him, shake him, get a little step back.
Boris Diaw
could
guard the 1 through 5, and that's who came in for Duncan.
Yeah, and he was deceptively athletic. You look at him and you're like, no. But then you see him move and you're like, okay.
Could move. That big guy could move.
Yeah, I mean, he could have been playing freaking defensive end. Like 6'8", like 290, probably ran like a 4.7 at his peak. Like, Boris Diaw is a monster.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I could see, getting back to where we are this year, though, I could see Phoenix and Milwaukee being a rematch.
You think Phoenix is going to get it done? They habitually choke. Chris Paul habitually chokes.
Well, you look at the brackets.
Who's going to get it done for Phoenix?
I look at the brackets because I think a lot of it's who you got to meet. Like,
they're going to play the Mavericks in the second round, potentially.
Exactly. Who do you got to match up with? I don't think Dallas has enough to take out Phoenix. Phoenix is so deep.
Do we have one more series left?
Yeah, he just switched it up to it.
Okay, Utah, Dallas, the one we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Yep. And so,
you don't think Dallas can get it done here?
How's Lucas? If Lucas Calf's all right, then give me Dallas because that's the star power. But man, if his calf isn't right.
Yeah, like I said, I've watched NBA all year. I'm an expert. I just don't know. Like, I don't know. You give me Luka, and I'm taking him 10 times out of 10.
Well, so like
even with
my question is, so not only is Luka out, but Hardaway's out too. So are they down to like their number 3 point then? Like, I mean, they got to be hurting there with who's running the plays, bringing the ball up court, getting everybody in place. It's just got to be real rough on him if Doncic isn't out there.
And the thing is, if you're looking at depth, and we've been alluding at the problem with Dallas, it's kind of a strength, at least comparatively, for Utah. You're looking at Donovan Mitchell, looking at Rudy Gobert, you're looking at Clarkson. Now,
Rudy Gobert, the super spreader that caused it all.
The
origin of everything getting shut down was Rudy Gobert.
I remember I was so upset because I bet that game and I wanted to watch it. And then it was like, you're probably the reason I bet it. Honestly.
Yeah, because I was big time on that game. One of our biggest bets of the year. And then they tip off, and it's like Rudy Gobert's a maniac and got the whole league infected.
Well, the interesting thing about Gobert is he's Defensive Player of the Year, but then he gets beat up in pick and roll in the playoffs a bit, and they kind of kill him. Is he that great? Is he that bad? He's somewhere in the middle. He can be exploited because he is so big, but at the rim, he's phenomenal. I mean, he's just so long. The word is that they're saying that Donovan Mitchell wants out of Utah and that he's looking to move to New York, go back to his hometown.
He's a superstar.
So, I think
You can't be a superstar in Utah.
no, and that's the thing. You can pick them, man. You can go either way with this. It's tough. If I had to choose, I'd go Utah just because I just think there's just more depth there.
Yeah.
And because of Luka's calf. Because the thing is, how do you let a calf heal when you're an NBA basketball player and you're the point guard? That's all you do is run up and down.
If I was Luka, I just would.
Well,
I would just not injure my calf and go out there and score 50 every night.
You're gonna be foam rolling.
When,
That's just me, though.
When KD tore his
both
Achilles, wasn't it a calf injury he was dealing with? Like he was overcompensating elsewhere, and that's what put all the pressure on his Achilles.
Yeah,
when he tore his Achilles, all he did was make a very casual left move, and then his Achilles was just shot.
Yeah.
You could see his calf pop.
I remember I was at the very prestigious steakhouse of Outback. No free shout-outs. When I watched that game, and I was like, did he just break his leg? Because when it first happened, the way he grabbed his leg, I was like, did his tibia just shatter? Because all he did was step forward. Then all of a sudden he was on the ground.
Contact leg break.
Yeah,
well, they
took one step and it was just gone.
They were beating him up in that series, I believe. Because that was the finals. That was Golden State versus Toronto. I believe Clay was dealing with some injuries of his own, and he came back. And that kind of put the spotlight on KD, and people were saying, wait a minute, if Clay's playing through this, where's his heart? Why is he out here? And he got sick of hearing the criticism because he was already getting the heat of
and he only played 12 minutes that game. And he goes out there and tears his Achilles.
He was getting the cupcake heat.
Yeah, you're a cupcake. You're a snake. You join a 73 team. You're finally
which on this show, being a cupcake is a compliment, but
in
the rest of the world, it might not be.
but and to his credit, he came out there. I think it was
he balled. He had 17 points and
boom
immediately.
He went off. And the difference between Golden State and
as soon as he came in the game, everybody's like, "Oh, this series is over. KD's back. We're good."
But then it was. KD went down with an injury, and then I believe Clay, someone else got injured too. And I remember Steph just being like, you gotta be kidding me. And
Steph shot 5 threes in a row and just bricked every single one of them.
And sometimes it's just who's the last, war of attrition, who's the last man standing,
Yeah.
And that's what it was. And it was just everything fell in line for Toronto.
Wow, Leonard played so well that series.
Oh yeah, and you always remember that shot over Philly that was just hanging.
Oh yeah,
and just went.
Yeah, that was one of the best things I've ever seen. Now he might be coming back for the Clippers, right?
And that's the interesting. They said that he might come back
supposedly Saturday. And New Orleans did win tonight. They beat the Spurs. They beat my Spurs, unfortunately. But it's a very young team. We're going to be better. Just need to find a guy. But. We got Clippers, New Orleans on Saturday, and I think the Clippers take that game. And Kawhi could very well be back for that game. And if Kawhi comes back for the Clippers, and you have Play-In P playing like he did the other night, Paul George potentially took over the game, and they just couldn't get it done because Minnesota wouldn't miss shots. Anthony Edwards was just going off, but Paul George went freaking berserk. And if you have that Paul George with a fresh Kawhi Leonard who's been playing 3-on-3 for the past 3 months, but still hasn't seen the court yet.
It hasn't. It just became Apple time. It wasn't Apple time in the last 3 months, but it is now.
I mean, so Kawhi has been playing full court basketball 3-on-3 for a while now, but he hasn't seen a full 5-on-5 practice. But people assume that he will be ready for the playoffs, but if they don't win Saturday, they're not in the playoffs. So I expect him to play Saturday.
Yeah. The thing with the Clippers too is Paul George reminds me of Scottie Pippen. He's a great, all-time great number
Robin.
2, but as a number 1, he's going to be an all-star.
Yeah, Indiana was always lacking when he was in Indiana. It was always just what else do we need to do? It's you think he's the guy. Like, that's the worst thing about having a guy that's almost the guy that can't be the guy.
Yep.
Is when you think you have a guy who's not the guy who everybody thinks can be the guy, you're just like stuck in purgatory.
It's like having an NFL quarterback who's about
Dak Prescott,
10th to 15th best quarterback.
Dak
Prescott.
Prescott.
You can't ride him home for a Super Bowl in all likelihood, but he's too good to give up because
Dak
even
Prescott.
that high of a quality is too high to.
I think Kirk Cousins is a better example than Dak, but Dak's close.
Yeah,
Kirk Cousins, I think, is the prime example of that.
I would say Cousins is like on the back half of 15, where Prescott's like right in that 10 to 12 range.
Yeah,
So Cousins is just good enough to get paid disgusting guaranteed money, but not good enough to win a playoff game.
He just has a good agent.
That's true.
But no, I think Clippers should get Reggie. Reggie has been playing so good for the Clippers. He's really just upped his game. I think if there's one guy who's emerged for them, and he did last season in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong; it's not like it happened just this season, but he's playing so well for them.
So let me ask you this: if Kawhi Leonard is at 85% of his capabilities, and assuming they win the game against New Orleans, whether he plays or not, but let's say opening game versus Phoenix is maybe his first game of the season, and he's at 85%. Do you think they have a chance against Phoenix, or do you think it's still Phoenix all the way?
If you look at just pure talent, if you just line up the rosters, you'd still give Phoenix the edge, but not knowing anything about the injury going into it, you say, yeah, they have a chance. Chemistry. I don't know if they get it all together all at once. That's asking a lot. You look at
it is asking a lot, but when you have a guy like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are like the exact same player, except Kawhi Leonard's much better than Paul George, to where they can both defend, they can both shoot, they can both do everything on the court, they can both guard the 1 through 5. And when you have two guys like that going against a team like Phoenix with shooters all over the place, very good chemistry, like I would give them a shooter's chance in that series.
I would, and then
I mean, I think Phoenix wins the series, it wouldn't be shocking if the Clippers pull off 3 wins in a row and then still take 7 games to close them out. But
I'd give them a game or two, and they can stretch and push it. But it's, I think Phoenix has going for them what the Spurs had going for them after that Ray Allen shot.
Yeah,
we were that close, and dang it, we're gonna cash in this because they were up 2 games to none.
Last year was theirs to win. They should not have lost in the finals last year.
I think this is their revenge tour. I think they run through the West, and I think they make it back. The only team I could see that can, if Golden State can get it going, but you look at how deep Phoenix is, and the thing I like about them is you got a little bit of everything. You got Chris Paul who's creating off the dribble. You got Booker out there shooting, and you got Ayton underneath. So you've got a guy who can dribble it, a guy
very balanced,
and a guy who can go inside and get it. So,
and their role players are actual role players. They're not team specific. They're guys that can kind of do everything and anything that you need them to do, but they're not blocked into only one thing. So they don't have a guy that is a specific corner shooter or a guy that's like a specific elbow shooter. Like anybody they bring in on rotation can do anything that you need them to do, and that opens up the entire court.
Yeah, you got Bridges, you got Crowder, you got
Crowder's a great 3-and-D guy. He can get hot. Crowder's one of those guys who can come in and make 5 threes in a row if he gets hot.
You got Cameron Payne, who
baby,
baffles me.
Tank commander.
Yeah, but it's just I think it's a lot to ask. If Kawhi Leonard could have made it back, let's say with 10, 15 games left in the regular season, and they had a little mojo going into it, then I'd give him a little something. But I think the 2 elements of him coming back so soon, like right when the playoffs would start for them and being on the road. On top of Phoenix having the depth and all of that, pent up frustration of how last year that championship just slipped right through their hands. It'd be a tall task, but they do have, don't get me wrong, they do have enough talent where it's not impossible. Like, it could happen. Don't get me wrong.
So the way you're talking makes it sound like you actually think like New Orleans might have a better chance of beating the Clippers on Saturday, or do you think the Clippers move on to play the Suns?
I like the Clippers over New Orleans. I think you can only get away for so long with letting your number one pick.
What happens if Zion comes back?
Yeah. So what's the deal with Zion this year? I just know he was out for the year and stopped paying attention to it.
This dude was throwing up like 360 under the leg dunks before the Spurs game tonight. I don't know what he's doing. He was out there putting on a freaking dunk contest before the game. He had shooting threes, like running up and down the court, and then the game started and he was just in fucking regular clothes. Like, I don't know what Zion's doing.
Well, the thing with him is that's so interesting is I saw an Instagram post that said, it looked like, he hurt, like, and they were joking, being facetious about it, I look at the video and he looks like he hasn't lost any, like he's still thick, like he's still 300 or so.
He's very thick.
And then you see his dunk and you think, dang, that's like Dominique Wilkins or like that's athletic. Yeah. I can't figure out.
It's like, what are you doing sitting on the bench? Like, he looks healthy. You've seen the training videos come out. He's been playing on that like little whatever court you want to call it, that rehab court that has the little bounce in it. You can like see it bending underneath his feet. But then you see him tonight before the Spurs game, and he's out there like dunking from the free throw line, like shooting jumpers, like putting on a dunk show. And it's like, okay, so you're in a like player go home game. This dude's putting on a show before the game starts. And you're not even like gonna suit him up. Like he doesn't even put on a jersey. He's sitting in a suit by the time the game starts. And I'm like, what is going on here?
Maybe pregame we'll get some Kawhi versus Zion 1-on-1.
Yeah, shoot.
Zion will lose that one.
It's become the thing where like these guys have figured out your knee out, your next big contract's gone. So if they're protecting their investment, which from a sheer financial point, makes sense. But you look at like
Nike money is much more than his contract will ever be, and he's still getting the Nike money. So like, I mean, I understand like the second contract will be bigger than what he's making now, but like I think he signed like a 15-year deal with Nike, like something outrageous, like one of the biggest Nike deals of all time. Like the dude's set up like. And unless you just don't care about legacy, unless you're just there to be there, then like I understand like why would you risk it? But I mean, if they would have lost to the Spurs tonight, they would be going home. And he looked perfectly healthy sitting on the bench.
And they say that reportedly, like he's not too happy being there. Like there's already
who would be?
Been buzz of him leaving. So I wonder when guys aren't happy with where they're at, how much sometimes that play. Look at. Of course,
Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio on his way out. Kawhi Leonard sat out his entire last year in San Antonio when he was reportedly healthy, and the whole like trainer situation where the trainer told him like you can play, then he goes out there and gets more injured, then Pop gets mad at him, and then you have a whole next season. Like I just hate Zaza Pachulia, but then like the whole next season. Kawhi is like halfway through the season, they're like, okay, Kawhi's coming back. And then we get to the playoffs and like, okay, he's for sure coming back. And then the playoffs are over and he never played. And then it's like, okay, he's for sure out. And then you trade him to Toronto for like pennies on the dollar. And it's just one of those things where
you got Pirtle.
Yeah. It's coming to a point with these guys in the NBA that they stood out so much for load management and stuff like that. I think it's coming to the point where they got to figure out maybe you don't take all their money because injuries do legitimately happen and guys do need to sit out because they do need to get healthy. But too many guys are taking advantage of the situation where they're sitting out because they're just, they're game loading, if you will. They're managing their games.
I mean, you have to think about it as like a job like any other job. Like how often do you wake up in the morning, going to your job and you're like, I really wish I could just stay home today.
Yeah.
And then in the NFL, like guys are like, yeah, my back's kind of hurting. Like, I'm gonna need to take today off. And then coaches and owners are like, oh, okay, like, well, we need to manage the load. So like,
I feel like so much
you could definitely be off tonight because like your back's hurting. And like, I'm not saying it for everybody, but like, how often are people just taking advantage of it? Like sitting at home watching NBA all night, just drinking wine on their couch, getting like messed up like LeBron James. Like,
yeah. Well, and here's the thing: if you're getting paid all of your salary, what's the incentive for some of these guys?
Why wouldn't you?
Like now, if you're getting paid half, a quarter, whatever if they were to go that route, I know this. If I'm sitting at home,
the NBA or MLB and NFL, I think are both like you have to play or like suit up to earn your game check.
Yep.
So once you're
I'm pretty sure something along those lines,
like a lot of NFL contracts, at least especially the lower dollar contracts, do have per game incentives built into them. The higher level contracts, a lot of them even have per game incentives. You know, not for the stars of the stars, but some older stars especially. Yeah. Like Cam Newton's contract was almost entirely incentives last year to play.
Yeah, so I would think if a tide turns, it's going to have to be something like that because the NBA will be absolutely buried if they try to be like, oh, you don't get paid if you don't play. Like,
oh, no, it can't be.
It's going to have to be a contract thing. And I feel like if anything, contracts are already so heavily like on the player side that
they would need to
I don't know if
try
we'll
to
get there, but I don't know what to do about it.
They would need to try to structure a supermax agree of what the supermax is. It's like 30 million is just straight up you get it, but the last 15 million is per game incentives.
Yep. It needs to be a mix so that if you're injured, you still get your guaranteed money, but there's enough of the pie that you could be missing that you can't say, I think I'm going to milk it.
It's not worth it to miss 20 games in a season. Because like some of these guys, like I'm just bringing up Kawhi Leonard again because I haven't watched the NBA in like 2 years, but even at his peak with the Spurs, he was missing 20, 25 games a year just on rest. And that was a lot of that had to do with Pop because he's been doing that forever. But I mean, you miss 20 games out of 80 game season. Like that's a lot of games.
Well, like you could even do it.
That's like your best player in the NFL missing 4 games.
Yeah,
you could even do it as like per game availability. So if you still have coaches who want to rest guys, they can. But like you need to be available to play those games. You know.
Well, imagine you got, let's say family of 4 going to the game, and you look at the Lakers.
That's always the argument.
Yeah, you look at the Lakers. As soon as they were mathematically eliminated from the play-in, you had LeBron, AD, Westbrook, and Carmelo Anthony out.
Yeah.
If you're a Los Angeles Lakers fan and you bought those tickets for your kids and they watched the game with you, and I mean, I know they haven't had a great season, but that's who you're going to see. And now they're all 4 of them. I mean, you came to see just Dwight Howard? I don't know. I mean, it's getting to a point where,
for example, real life example, like one of my coworkers bought the Spurs Warriors last game of the season tickets like 3 months ago. Steph didn't play, Clay didn't play, DeJounte Murray didn't play, Jakob Poeltl didn't play, Keldon Johnson didn't play. Nobody played. You had the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th guys on the Warriors versus the 6th through 12 guy against the Spurs. Like it was like an exhibition game. You could go to Austin Spurs game and have better show out than they had that night. And I was like, bought those tickets 3 months ago, like in January, like expecting like hopefully this is gonna matter, and then it didn't matter.
You pay NBA prices to see summer league ball.
Yeah, and that's what they paid. Like not one single starter on either team played that night.
Yeah.
Granted, it was the last game of the season. Like you do take that gamble either way, but still, it's like you gotta at least get something for your ticket. Like,
well, the thing is, why are you getting paid if you're not gonna like? It's not fair to the fans. Now, like for instance, for us, if we got paid half our salary, make it to work, you think differently about missing work than if you get paid all of it. If it's paid time off and you're good. So maybe these guys need, like we were saying earlier, if there was
some
enough
sort of
of a hit where they'd feel it,
Yeah.
And maybe you make it stronger towards the end of the season when guys are more likely to start load managing those games at the end of the season.
Maybe the NBA puts in like incentive bonuses, then it would be so different from team to team too, because then you have teams that are sitting 1, 2, 3, 4 in their conference, and seeding doesn't matter at that point. Like, why would you play? Like there's just so many different subcategories that you can go down for why people aren't playing, that I don't know if there is an answer for it other than just cutting the season down to 62 games. But then that's gonna diminish legacies, because you have young guys that are like LeBron 10 years ago. If you wanted to cut down the season 62 games, he's like, well, I'm chasing Jordan. I'm never going to catch these records if we're only playing 62 games a year. Stuff like that. But I don't know a better solution.
I think the thing is, too, they have to adapt with the game. Now, the problem is the money, right? Less games, less money. But you look at the game, it's spread out more. These guys have to cover more ground. And so
they're moving around a lot more.
And the pace is faster, too. So
you're sprinting, not jogging a lot more.
So that turns into soft tissue injuries over what used to be bone injuries, because they played so physical. You could go up for a layup and break your arm, to where now it's you put so much stress on your body playing such a fast-paced game that if you play a doubleheader, you might tear your ACL. It's one thing or the other.
Quantity versus quality. And it's gotten to the point where the quantity's proven to be so high that the quality has dropped. Guys aren't playing. Guys are saying, you know what? You got 82 games on the schedule. Well, I'm going 70. So, now you'll have guys load managing, honestly. If you drop it to 70 or 62 or whatever, you still have some guys load managing, but you would like to think that would fall off some if that were to happen.
Yeah.
Ab Silver was talking about maybe doing a tournament in the middle of the season. I'm just trying to wrap my head around. I'm like, why would they care about
there's already
the middle of the series? They're only playing for the championship. That's what they care about.
And especially in where players have so much power and mobility now, to where they can pick and choose destinations, to where you have super team after super team being created, that why would anybody play in a midseason tournament when they're basically choosing the guys they want to go to war with before the season starts to make a run at a title? Why would anybody risk a midseason tournament for absolutely no reward whatsoever, other than oh, look at this Mickey Mouse trophy we won, like LeBron did with the Lakers when they won in Orlando?
Yeah. Well, and
literally Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And you look at that, and they had that nice big break before it, and that's perfect for what they had. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, injury prone, an older player, got a lot of rest right before it. And now you look at the other, he's been in LA 4 years now. They got that bubble championship. They have a first round exit with Phoenix, and they got 2 years where they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, so, it's just typical. LeBron James just so overrated. But hey, man, we appreciate having you on. We're running a little long right now.
Man. Thank you so much again for jumping on with us.
I don't know how much NBA we actually talk currently, but we definitely got down some rabbit holes and had some fun. So it was great having you on, man.
Thank you for having me.
Had a good time. So we'll catch you later, and very much appreciate you coming to join us talking some NBA.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Hope we can coax you back on in the future.
That'd be great.
Maybe NBA Finals, man. We'll get a little preview. Be a little bit more hyper focused on one thing other than a league type situation. So we'll see what we can do, man.
We're a little thin now. We'll tighten up in a little bit of time here.
Yeah. So we'll have more specific things to talk about than just going down rabbit holes.
Good deal. Good deal.
All right.
Thanks again, fellas.
Take it easy, man.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. That is the basketball talk for the night.
I hope y'all had fun with that because I had a lot of fun with that. But
So
I
did
don't know
I.
how much
I
people
love,
actually followed it.
dude. I love talking basketball with Chris. That guy knows his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's just so knowledgeable. You can tell he sees the game from like a player's point of view and actually like,
And a coach's point of view.
yeah, like
I
he
during
broke down
the tournament, he called me during the Tech Duke game. We were just talking about the strategy of it, and it was so cool to hear and like learn about.
yeah, whenever he was breaking down like the movement of like the NBA, where he was like, you're basically playing 2-on-1 basketball compared to like 2-on-3, like they did back in the day. Like I'd never heard that comparison before, but like the way he described it, like definitely makes sense with the transition of the league and everything. So it was great to have him on. Really enjoyed it. So
Absolutely. So a little bit of NFL talk, a little rant I wanted to go on. I wrote an article about this earlier today.
I did see this. I'll let you just take off here because I don't have a whole lot to say about the Bears 39th pick.
Yeah, so like I've been seeing a lot of Bears fans on the Bird app just kind of getting very upset at the idea of the Bears drafting a defensive player at 39. And I kind of have a different opinion on that. Like if the Bears cannot trade out of 39, there's a very real chance that the top 5 to even like top 10 players available at that pick are defensive players. Like that's the a lot of the best offensive players in the draft are going to be eaten up in the first round, according to mock drafts, which we all know are not real life. Like every year, the draft ends up way different than a mock does. Almost every mock. There's very few that get it even 60% right. But if we're going off mock drafts here, doing all the simulations, I ran 8 simulations today on 4 different simulators, and these are the results right here that we see. There were 4 true Bears targets that were even top 10 options in all these mocks that I ran. It was Tyler Linderbaum, who was there for 1 of the 8 mocks. I would not expect him to be there. Tyler Smith was a top 10 option in maybe 2 to 3 of the mocks, 3 of the 8 mocks, which Tyler Smith is a great option at that pick, in my opinion, at 39. But there's a real chance that either he won't be there or the Bears big board won't have him slated as a top 40 player in the draft. One of those 2 options, because you got to be sticking to your board to some degree when you're picking at 39. You got to be making sure you're getting the most talent out of that pick when you have as many holes as the Bears do. And I'm not trying to sit here and sell that the Bears need to be selecting at 39. I think the ideal thing is that you're trading out of this pick if there's not an offensive guy that makes sense there. I think in the draft, once you start chasing rabbits for like, this is what we need, we're going to chase it, we're going to pick him. Our board doesn't line up for it, but we need an X wide receiver. So we're drafting an X wide receiver at 39. I don't think that's a good team building strategy in general. So ideally, if it's all defensive players on your board at 39, you're trading down. But if you're not, I don't think you go chasing a guy who's not worth the 39 pick. I just don't think it's a smart thing to do. And that's what these mocks are showing us, that the talent that's going to be there is primarily defensive, and that the Bears should look to trade out of it when the opportunity presents itself. And, if according to these, a lot of QBs might be available right there, there's probably going to be a chance to trade out of that pick because someone will want to go get Desmond Ridder, someone will want to go get Matt Corral. He's still on the board.
Those quarterbacks dropping to about the 40 range, I think, could be some great value. But I also think there's a whole lot of value there for the Bears to trade out because it is so defensive heavy, and a lot of people need defensive players. If the Bears can pick up like 2 extra picks in like the top 80, I feel like they're a lot better.
Sign me up.
They're a lot better shape having 2 picks in the top 80 than having the 39th pick and waiting until What was their next one? 80,
49.
Oh, 49? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Which
you'd
49
have three.
49 lines up beautifully for the
Yeah.
offensive talent they need. But
It's just one of those-
39, I think it's 49. It's 49 or 48 or something like that. It lines up
Yeah.
very well. But you don't want to draft a guy 9 slots earlier than you have him marked. I just don't think it's good strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely need to be looking to trade out. So, two things can go right for the Bears. Either a lot of quarterbacks can go early, like Kenny Pickett gets overdrafted, Corral goes overdrafted. All these quarterbacks go early. That would be great for the Bears because that means offensive players are falling to them.
Yeah, it means talent's falling down the board, which is beautiful.
all the quarterbacks are falling to where somebody is like, hey, we can go get a guy like Kenny Pickett at 39, or we can go get a guy like Matt Corral at 39. But worst case scenario is that those guys go like second round, like before 39. And then
someone else gets the benefit of a trade up right before the Bears.
Exactly. So the Bears may have to do something like the Cowboys did last year, because you look at the Cowboys draft last year, they traded back 2 picks, and ended up taking Micah Parsons. And then you look a pick later, and the Bears gave up significantly more than Philly gave to Dallas to go get Justin Fields. But the Cowboys were like, Parsons is still going to be there, and we can trade back and pick up an extra third-round pick, even though the Bears gave up their first-round pick next year. It's like we would rather have Parsons here.
The Bears had the same offer to the Cowboys as they ended up giving up to Denver.
Yeah, and at the time, I was like, that is stupid, but they had Parsons as their guy, and
Parsons wouldn't have been there had they made the trade with the Bears. They wouldn't.
Yeah,
like, he would have been gone.
Yeah, he wouldn't have dropped that far. So obviously, they made the right decision. But that might be something that the Bears need to consider. It's like, even if they drop down from 39 to 45, then all of a sudden there's a trade right after them where somebody picks up what looks to be a better trade. It's like, but you can get a better value player at 45 and still pick up that 79th pick or 75th pick that you wouldn't have got if you didn't make the trade. So, yeah, hot takes to an immediate trade can definitely blow up in your face, because I saw that New York Giants trade with Chicago last year, and I was sick to my stomach that we didn't take that Bears trade. And then
I was sitting here scratching my head, like, why on earth didn't the Cowboys take that trade? Like, that was good value. But I mean, it worked out for the Cowboys.
When you got your guy, you got your guy. And the way the board's lining up, like, they don't have to trade out of the 39th pick, obviously, but I mean, everything is
according to the mock simulations. There's not a lot for them at 39. That makes a lot of sense.
And even so let's say, hypothetically speaking, there is a very I don't know how to explain this, but like a good wide receiver prospect available that maybe is in like his second or third year. No specific names coming to mind, but if you even get offered that at 39 with like an extra like 5th round pick, that may actually be worth it in this draft too, because it's so deep. Picking up an extra 5th round and like a proven like 3rd year veteran, like, no name is coming.
Yeah, it would really depend on the guy, and I can't think of any either. But it would really depend on the guy.
But even but like Justin Fields needs help. Like, he needs somebody there.
Yeah,
like,
and don't get me wrong. Like, I get heartburn thinking about the Bears using one of their first 2 picks on something that is not going to help Justin Fields' development.
Yeah,
I absolutely get heartburn over that. But I don't think it's a smart strategy, as I've already said, to using that emotion to make your draft picks.
Yeah, and that's what's rough, because the Bears do need a lot. And when you're picking at 39, in theory, you want to be like, I want to take the best player available. But the best player available is on defense. And then you get to your next pick, and the best available players on defense. Then all of a sudden, you're in the 4th round. Justin Fields still has nobody to throw the ball to.
Yeah.
And you're like,
well, and so like
we mortgaged our future for this guy, and we still aren't giving him any help. and he showed clear signs of struggle with no talent around him, with Allen Robinson just like cashing checks at that point. Like, what do? You see the Bengals, they go out and everybody makes fun of them taking Jamar Chase, and they make the Super Bowl. It's like, not being a Bears fan, like, just hypothetically speaking, I would be more happy if they traded up for like a Chris Olave or a Jamison Williams, or just like a big name wide receiver, or just anybody they think is going to help Justin Fields' development. I would be happier as an outside looking in, rather than just taking best player available at 39, even if it is like a defensive lineman who may be great, but that doesn't help your quarterback situation.
Yeah, so I have mixed feelings on that. Like, they have so few picks already this year to help him, and they need offensive line. They need wide receiver. They need defensive
everything.
guys too.
But so did the Bengals, and they made
so
the Super
trading
Bowl.
up just doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, there's not a lot of Jamar Chases available in the mid to late first round.
Hey man, if you fall, like, I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't, like, if you fall in love with somebody, I'm saying, like, if you can throw the Bears out of it, just any average team, if they're in love with somebody, and like, let's say, like, we have a trade in place for pick 19, if this specific player falls to 19, and then that player falls to 19, you have to pull the trigger on him. Like,
So
I'm not saying like
you
trade up
are
before the draft.
describing Ryan Pace to a T. If Mitchell Trubisky drops to 2, we're going and getting them from 3.
But he was dropping it to, I mean, he was never going 1.
If Leonard Floyd drops to 9, we're going and getting Leonard Floyd.
Hey, you can't really knock the Leonard Floyd pick. Like, that was one of those things. Is like, I mean,
I can.
I
mean,
know.
you're right. I never thought Leonard Floyd was as bad as the reputation he got in Chicago, and he's kind of proved it in LA. I think it was just the way he was used. He was misunderstood in the way that he was used, and fans dogged him for it. But he was a very effective player in Chicago. He just didn't have great stats.
I'll never sit here and like defend Ryan Pace like on a cognitive level, but I will say, like, it takes balls to have conviction in what you're doing. And you have to have conviction in what you're doing if you want to build a Super Bowl team. I mean, just look at Les Snead. If I'm being
completely honest, Ryan Pace hit on a lot of his conviction picks.
Yeah.
But he missed on a few of them, and when that's your strategy, you have a very small margin for error.
I mean, Trubisky killed him, especially, like, a lot of people forget that, like, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes went in double digits after Trubisky went to. Like, nobody really talks about it, but, like, that hurts that pick a lot. But at the same time, like, I would rather have a GM that has the balls to, like, go make that move, rather than somebody that's like, we're just going to take best player available at 39 and, like, see what happens.
The trouble with Pace was he had too much of the balls.
Hey, but I mean, if things didn't work out for Les Snead, people would be talking about him like he's the craziest person in the world, and he's tanked the franchise for years to come. But now they have a Super Bowl, so no matter what happens from here going forward, Les Snead's always going to be like, "Oh, we got to do what he did. We got to go out and just get everybody. Fuck those picks. We don't need those."
I mean,
picks.
You make a good point. I mean, Les Snead would be getting roasted everywhere if it didn't work out.
But instead, he's celebrated. He's like, we don't need these picks. Yeah. He's out there. They're having parades with him wearing a shirt that says "fuck those picks." Like, that's how little they care about it.
Yeah.
And if it didn't work out, like, he wouldn't even be able to leave his house. Like, if they, like, let's say 3 years from now they never won a Super Bowl, like, Les Snead would be, like, banished and barred from the NFL and blacklisted. And if he wore a shirt 3 years from now after never winning a Super Bowl that said "fuck them picks," people would be like, "Yeah, you're an idiot, dude." Like, everybody knows you need picks. Look at Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson traded the best running back in the league and got all those picks and built a Super Bowl contender. It's like, you need those picks. Yeah. Sometimes you don't need the picks. Sometimes all it takes is getting the right guys in there and making a Super Bowl run.
Yep. I mean, I can't disagree with you on that. But I think that's about all we got for our NFL rant, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm really hoping the Cowboys get Chris Olave. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love for it to happen. Other than that, don't sleep on the Lions. Looks like they're going to trade out of 2. They're going to pass on Aiden Hutchinson, maybe. We'll see.
Cool.
We will be doing
Juicy.
draft coverage the first round, I believe. We got to get the
first
logistics
round.
set up. But if you want to hear us rant and rave about all your favorite prospects going to your favorite teams, be sure to tune in, and we'll be there to coach you through everything. If you hate the pick, we'll tell you why you should hate it even more. If you love the pick, we'll tell you why you should love it even more. We'll cover everything
All
for
day.
you.
All the
Everything.
way.
All day, every day. Don't sleep on the Lions. Thanks for listening.
Don't do it.
Make sure to like. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to interact. Let us know what you want to see. Let us know what you want to hear. And we'll do it for you.
We're here for the people.